Hey people, welcome back for another edition of the Jagged Edge. This is Ian here along with Chris.
Hey everyone.
Hey, how's it going? We've got actually a whole lot of news that's come out in the last week or so. A lot of movie-related, show-related things we want to talk about. I'll tell you one movie we're not going to be talking about. we floated doing this about a week ago. That's the new Transformers film.
I am glad I listened to you, but at the same time, there's part of me that still wishes I would have seen the train wreck. I will catch it eventually. I'll catch it on DVD, but yeah, this movie sucks.
Yeah,
From what I'm hearing. It's almost I've not heard one person who has said this movie is even close to being good.
it's one of those wrecks. I think that's just too spectacularly bad to look away.
No, and again, I'm a big Transformers fan. I think Transformers at this point is almost part of American culture in some aspects.
Yeah.
It's just, and people are just sick of seeing it being treated the way that it has been. Some people enjoy these movies. I've enjoyed some of these movies. The first one is okay. The third one is okay. The first one was a little bit better than okay, but the second one and the fourth one are complete shit. I saw all of these in the theater, and you and I talked about this a couple times. In fact, I even last week I was like, maybe we should see this. Maybe we should review this, if for anything else, because it would probably be spectacular to trash it or praise it if it actually ended up being good, which was a bill of goods that you just weren't buying at all.
No, too much of a long shot.
Yeah, so it's horrible. It's kind of funny because listening to constructive criticism about it, everything bad about it is everything that I thought was going to be bad about it. It's still, the vast majority of the movie is not about the Transformers. Optimus Prime, I guess, has the least amount of screen time he's ever had, which is kind of compelling to me because all the trailers and everything, makes it out like he's the main villain. It sounds like the story is supposed to be centered around him, as it usually is, but maybe a little bit more dramatic this time around.
Mm-hmm.
But he's barely in it. I saw in the last week going up to the release of it that they were trying to sell this like it's the last one. It's not the last one. There's still a 6. There's still a Bumblebee spinoff.
Oh man,
Do you want to see a Bumblebee spinoff?
I'm good. I've had my fill at this point. You can lay it to rest.
This character, and I didn't mind the changes that they made to Bumblebee, but at this point, I mean, he's almost an embodiment of everything that's wrong with these movies in comparison to like G1 Transformers or anything else. I mean, he's okay. I get why they did what they did to the character. He's fun. He doesn't really talk, but he says, clips of audio and other things like that. And I guess they do something with his voice in this one. But
Right.
now he comes apart and reattaches and stuff. I don't care. I don't care.
Yeah.
Just end it. Just end it. I know. They like a year ago they got a bunch of writers together and they had this big group of writers talking about ways that they're going to do things with the Transformers. They're going to do one more Transformers. There's going to be Transformers 6 in this Bayverse.
Right.
They were talking about connecting it with G.I. Joe and Mask and all that. Do you remember that?
Whoa. Sort of. I don't remember the G.I. Joe connection though.
Yeah. They're gonna try to make one giant universe out of a connected G.I. Joe universe with the Transformer universe. They're going to start Mask and put Mask in there. All these '80s toys, Hasbro toys, and all that. I don't think that's happening anymore. This one, outside of it being critically panned, is also financially not coming out the way the others have. It is the weakest opening date out of all of them. We'll see how it does for the weekend, because it did come out on a Wednesday, so we'll see how it does for the weekend and such. But I think people are just tired of it. I really just think that, in large part, it's really worn on people. Try to be a little bit more constructive about the criticism. There's not enough Transformers. People don't care about what's going on with the characters enough. In these movies are generally all the same.
Yeah. It's sort of it's become a bit of a predictable. Oh, wow. Tripping over my own tongue. Predictable formula from start to middle to end.
Yeah.
You've gotta there's a very similar setup for each of these. There's a pretty similar plot progression, and then it's pretty predictable usually what's in the end. And Optimus Prime, there's a new type of transformation and everything else, and then new resolve setting up for it's just and I get it. I guess the big selling point to try to rebuild this one, like, hey, wait, Optimus Prime's the villain. What's going to happen in this one? But that's
He's not a villain.
no, he's not. And
He's brainwashed or something by the Quintessence or whatever they're called in this one.
Yeah, it's just not enough to set that up and make it compelling. Which is
Right.
it's funny too because it's not like you expect Shakespeare Transformers or something
Right,
like that.
right.
But it's
You expect Transformers, though.
yeah, I do. I would.
That's it's just some of the, like, I haven't seen much of it, but I've seen enough of this variation of Hot Rod, who is one of my personal favorites, and Rodimus Prime, who I know I'm probably never going to see, but that's all right.
Right.
Hot Rod, hey, that's cool. I've seen enough of him to know I don't want to see what they've done with him. And whatever. Just, all right, come out with number 6, come out with Bumblebee, and just end this. Put an end to it. Just, because I know out of that big writers meeting that they had a couple years back, that part of the big plan is to do an all-animated movie on Cybertron, which is not to be connected with this whole Bayformers universe.
Bayformers.
That I want to see.
Heck yeah. Yeah, I mean that could I don't know. I don't think it would be quite the same as the like the Voltron, that awesome reboot that I'd seen. But it depends on the roots that you start the stuff off with.
Well, yeah, it's supposed to be 3D animated. So I think
Okay.
Transformers Prime. Did you see any of that in its 3 seasons?
No.
Okay. Well, by the way, you missed out on something awesome. Transformers Prime is great. Probably the best iteration of Transformers next to G1. Wow. Yeah, really good season, or good 3 seasons of the show. It came and it went. It went out before it started dying out. Yeah, that was fun. It's supposed to be something like that. I believe this is supposed to be very realistic looking, but it's going to be completely animated on Cybertron. That's what people want. It's not supposed to be about Sam Witwicky or whoever the hell that guy's playing in the current ones. Geez, it's horrible. Can't remember his name. I guess that's the whole point. I can't think of it. It's not supposed to be about them. It was never supposed to be about them. It's supposed to be about Transformers.
Right. So.
Anyways, so yeah, you talked us down from that. I came back about a week later. Like, yeah, maybe we should do it. Maybe yeah, it could be gloriously bad. Might be a lot of fun, but no, we're not going to do that.
Man. Well, hey, all I know is I will take some of the E3 announcements that we had beforehand over a Transformers announcement any day.
Yeah.
We just finished our review last week talking about some of the major stuff and things we didn't talk about. Of course, I know we missed a few things, but some of the most major things that came out of E3 covered what we could. And this one, you pointed this out to me too, was I don't feel this was picked up enough by a lot of the outlets, but still important nonetheless, and should make you smile. You had an early console. And that was Atari announcing its re-entry back into the home console business.
I completely missed this during E3. I actually caught this afterwards. Yeah, this is a big deal. They came out with like a short 25 second video showing some portions of what this console is going to look like. It's nice, made out of wood, kind of like the old 2600
Yeah.
in some areas, which I thought was interesting. Right now, it's being called the Atari box. Atari has been passed around by so many different companies since last made a console back in the early mid '90s. I mean, it's Atari in name only. This is
Right.
very interesting, though. There's not much known about it. The only thing that's been said officially is that it's made off of PC-based technology.
Right.
Yeah, Atari, but they said we're getting back into the hardware business.
It's neat, and you don't always see a company try to rebrand itself back to its roots like this once it disperses into so many other media outlets. I faintly remember in the early 2000s when Atari got bought out. It was like Infogrames. I'm probably saying that wrong. I think it was like Infogrames or something like that. Yeah, Infogrames. And there was the later on, you fast forward to 2013, there was a filing for bankruptcy. Still, they're still a rally man to turn things around. If you've been any sort of gamer over the last decade or so, Atari has popped up in dozens of titles somewhere, at least credited,
Right.
for publishing credits and things like that. And their licensing has gone a lot of places. Heck, they're even going to be involved with Blade Runner coming up.
Well,
So,
what some people may not know or don't remember is that Atari bought Blizzard
true.
about 5-6 years ago. So I mean that's the kind of games that they're coming out with now. That is the power behind Atari now. Blizzard consistently makes the most popular games. Overwatch being the biggest one right now, but then the Diablo series, Warcraft series, Starcraft series.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, they've got all the money, they've got all of it. They can do whatever they want. So this is exciting because it's exciting for that fact because I think that whatever they're going to put together will have some amount of quality to it. Normally, when you see these consoles try to emerge, I'm more excited about that. It's more like Blizzard is coming out with a console than Atari is. And I think the important part about that, though, is that, I mean, when you talk about consoles and how they can survive, it comes down to the power of the console, and it comes down to the games, which it should for every console, but especially when you're trying to get your foot in the door. Some people are saying that maybe this thing is maybe Atari's making a decision to do this because of the popularity with the NES Mini.
Yeah, I
don't think so.
Yeah,
I don't think. Yeah,
and I think there has to be some caution labeling this as just an attempt to sort of get back in the game, but sit back in fourth or fifth row and just sort of follow Nintendo's groove. Being a classic, being the cute kid in the corner. I'd be careful with that. There's, as you're saying, there's a completely different set of circumstances behind this, and a completely different set of IPs we should really look out for.
Yeah, I think that's a little bit too far behind the times for them. There have been emulated versions of a lot of their popular games in consoles, like home consoles, like the NES Mini that they've come out. They've been doing that for a long time.
Yeah.
There's no reason to come out with something new like that. I think that they're going to try to put something new on the market. I think they see an opening with Nintendo being as niche as they are now, not really trying to make a comeback into the greater console battle. Microsoft having the problems that it's having with the Xbox. I'm sorry if you like the Xbox, I'm not trying to take anything away from it, but they're not competitive. I think what the best they've done last year was they oversold the PlayStation for 3 months leading into the holidays, and that's it for like the last 4 years. And I think Atari sees an opening here, and I think I see a small one too.
Yeah, for a long time, I think there's been a issue with a bit of a void, like a gap. For the longest time before they went more reclusive and into the shadows with portable consoles, Nintendo was really that third party a lot of us look to. Dreamcast, Sega went down. Nintendo was always that party that was there, but in their absence from the mainline war, now that we've kind of come down to 2 consoles, there's been a void there, and you're looking at a changing market. The gaming, the whole industry, the market, it's not the same as when we were playing in the late '90s when Nintendo 64 and everything was out. We've gone through a lot of terraforming since. There was the whole age of really converting consoles into home entertainment media centers. Sony was real big on that. It's kind of hinted at it with PlayStation 2. Really went full bore with it for PlayStation 3. Microsoft jumped on board with this too, and now you're seeing this bundling of, hey, you can get your Netflix and everything else on. That's become standard fare, which is a huge change. So there's a lot of room.
Evolution.
Yeah,
good evolution for the system too.
Very, very, and with that, you're always going to have new markets emerging within that. So I think we're far away from stagnating. If anybody can nail a niche to zoom in on, I'd look at Atari.
I think they could do it. Now, would I bank on it? Would I bet on it? No.
Yeah.
I would not. I would not. Realistically,
It's
I mean,
uphill.
we're talking about this with some enthusiasm just to see what it could do to the gaming industry. I would not bet on it. Now, can I see in 2 or 3 years Atari coming out with their brand new console with Overwatch 2 exclusive as a console along with PC? Could that be a juggernaut? Possibly.
Yep.
But do I think that this will be successful? I would not bet on it. But it's cool and it's interesting, and because it hasn't been in quite a while.
Time will tell.
So yeah, that was fun. I saw that right after E3. I'm like, whoa, how did I miss this?
Yeah.
This is interesting. It's gonna be fun to keep an eye on this and see what they do. Yeah. All right. So
Yeah.
I'm just gonna cut it. All right, there you go. Let's go to the next topic.
All right. Right into
Best segue ever.
All right. Right back into MCU. That is some notes about Sony's Venom and Silver and Black. This was a little bit jarring. There's notice that I believe by Amy Pascal from a recent interview, she was sitting right next to Marvel's head producer. That all of these films were going to be connected in the same world that is the same world to MCU's Spider-Man.
Right. So the wording on this is funny. Because the way she says this, did you watch this?
Yeah, I did.
This was hilarious because the look on Kevin Feige's face, he's like, oh, God, shut up.
Yeah, yeah, it's just
He was the best. But so the way she words this is that, they're coming out with this. I think they're calling it Sony's Marvel's universe now, which is really weird. They announced some months back that they're going to make a Venom movie. That Tom Hardy connected to it, which is really cool. They're coming out with Silver and Black, which is Silver Sable and Black Cat.
Right.
They're even talking about a couple more now. They're going to be expanding off of these characters, off these Spider-Man characters that they got with the Spider-Man license.
right.
Now, this was initially said it was going to be its own small universe of more adult-oriented, darker movies.
Right.
Intentionally gritty, and it sounded like almost intentionally adult and gritty and violent things that you would expect from a Venom movie, in the such. But now she just said that these are going to be connected to the Spider-Man movie, which then one step over says that they're connected to the MCU.
Right.
But they don't come quite out and say that. And it's kind of funny because Kevin Feige said that these movies initially, when Venom was announced, said that it was not connected to the MCU.
You have to wonder how much of this is how much do you get involved in PR, and how much is actual content. I think the temptation with the pieces of news today, and especially these films and what's being built, is to always tease and hype up your base. Will you do that? Generate a ton of controversy? Oh, yes. Sure. Of course, everybody wants to hear about if a TV series is linked to a movie, vice versa. Will Venom be showing up here or there? Will, Black Cat be involved? There's so many variables that go into that. But let's be realistic. There's still very stark lines here. We were narrowly coming out of getting Spidey into the MCU anyway. That was a big enough feat in and of itself. And now, with the crossovers out there and everything else, I'm not sold on this, frankly. That it's just, well, there it is, stamp it, signed, sealed, and approved. Now we're going to see, Venom. No.
There's a lot of problems with this. Let me say first of all that I really like the idea of these things all being connected. I think going forward, now Venom comes out next year, which is still crazy to me.
Yeah.
But going forward, I could see this being a lot of fun. Spider-Man's Rogue Gallery is awesome. He's got some of the best villains ever, at least as far as Marvel's concerned. I still think the best villains are in DC, but Marvel's for Marvel, Spider-Man had some of the best villains, and could it be really fun to see a Venom versus Punisher a couple years down the line? That would be fantastic. And these are all things that seem to be building up. But I don't know. I don't know if Marvel's going to like Sony having that kind of control. I, I think I think what happened was this is a conversation that they've had that Amy Pascal's like, I'm going to spill this beans and I want to see what you do with it.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm going to poke this bear and I'm going to find out what happens. It's it's very unsettling for me as someone who enjoys the MCU as much as I do,
right.
because the potential here is awesome. To see Venom and Carnage and to even lesser extent Silver Sable and Black Cat, who have all been announced. Carnage has been announced to be in the Venom movie, but to go with Dr. Octopus and Green Goblin and Hobgoblin and some of these other villains, to see them running amok in the MCU movies, in quite frankly bringing an element that that is actually the weakest element of the MCU movies, which is weak villains.
Right.
And less the focus on the villains, to see them built up elsewhere and then brought into some of these other movies, I think it could be huge. I think the potential is great.
Agreed.
Not to mention, least of all, seeing them all interacting with Spider-Man.
Yeah, I want to throw the fantasy football about this for a second. And this is in my total realm of this would be complete awesome, but don't cast this as any fact. I could almost see this leading to a like a pseudo Avengers collab. And by that I mean setting up the grounds for maximum carnage.
Sinister Six?
I'm trying to see was Sinister Six involved in that. That could be a case too. But what I'm looking at is I'm thinking about the series of comics that were in the mid-90s. Also, I've spoken about this game before. I adored it. It was on Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis, Maximum Carnage. Spider-Man and Venom ended up teaming up because Carnage decided to unleash everyone he could from every asylum, and the villains started to unite. So you had everyone from some new faces, Shriek and Doppelganger, Carnage, villains everywhere. And you had everyone from Spidey, Venom, Cloak and Dagger, Iron Fist teaming up. It was chaos, but it was a really, really good series in both the game and the comics. And I guess setting the grounds for something like that, I think, would be sick. You've opened up the universe so much at that point that you're marrying these sub-villains and these major villains, and all of them could play a really awesome role.
Right. Now, she did also go on to say that, these things are happening in this world, but albeit in different towns and such. So she didn't just completely put everybody in corners that they can't get out of. The way that Amy Pascal said this was in a way that was very safe. But I mean, the potential here is great. Now, what do I think is most likely going to happen is that, and it's unfortunate, this still ticks me off, is that while the Netflix superheroes are in the same world as the MCU, they've yet to interconnect in any way other than passing references and occasional comments, which have all been one-sided on the Netflix shows. I don't think they've done really anything other than a couple shots and a couple things in scenes in the movies. I think it's going to end up being something like that, with the exception of Spider-Man. This sounds like these are two different worlds that Spider-Man is going to be interacting with in some way or another, which is cool, but I think at some point would become really irritating, because then people are going to want to see Venom running amok in some movie.
That's the trouble.
I mean, you're teasing this enough. It still bothers me enough to where Wilson Fisk still is not going to be in a Spider-Man movie. Which needs to happen.
Isn't that crazy? When you stop and think about it, I mean, a masterful thing that the Kingpin, that Fisk always brought to the series was that spin that, crime kingpins, you don't have to be super powered, be an extreme threat. It's a guy that had so much power and so much influence that even vigilantes couldn't touch him. He had the courts rigged for him. He had attorneys, lawyers, any setup that he needed to always get off scot-free, and he never walked. Someone would always walk in his place. So, in a way, it's sort of a you say it's sort of a moratorium on justice. Batman does this really well in the Dark Knight Nolan series with Harvey Dent, the issues that happened with Two-Face and everything leading to that. Yeah. But here it's a different story in Spidey. The guy's just untouchable, and you can't do anything about it. That's it. Tough.
Not to mention, I mean, a couple years down the line, after a couple seasons of the Punisher TV show, which is going to be on Netflix, and then you've got an established Spider-Man, and then to see them together, which we'll probably see. I mean, that's always a classic hero anti-hero
It
team up.
is. It is.
It's I want to see all of this stuff. This would be great. I hope everything can work out together in a magical, happy land with unicorns and teddy bears and gumdrops, and everybody works together. But it doesn't typically happen.
No.
Sony usually jumps the fucking shark and just makes horrible movies, and then they're eventually going to have to cut ties with them. That's what I'm still expecting.
Yep.
Going to happen. And enjoy Spider-Man while we have him, and then they'll have to recast him over at Sony because MCU will cut ties, and then you're still going to have your Sony Marvel universe, and with all the villains, and
this is just one of those weird occurrences of fate. I think early on when the rights, the IPs to these were being purchased, and all the good lines in the sand drawn, that there wasn't a dice cast saying that we know in X amount of years it's going to be Avengers. This is what's going to happen. It's sort of taking your stake of the pie while you can, knowing that Spidey is that's a hot IP to have. That is something really potent to run off of, especially all the different characters and all the different villains. But now they're facing some very real stuff. Marvel has built just this ball of awesomeness, and now you have these collabs, and now there's continuity. And so much continuity to be concerned about. They didn't have to think about that before.
Yeah.
But they're forced to now. They have no choice. So.
Yeah, well, think about the last two Spider-Man movies that we got.
Right.
The Amazing Spider-Man 1, which was fine. It was okay. 2 was a big problem with Amazing Spider-Man 2 was the fact that they were trying to establish this whole big world.
Right.
They were trying to establish all these villains. I mean, everyone remembers the scene near the end where I forget the guy's name. Right?
Rhino.
No, not Rhino. His buddy, Peter Parker's buddy, although he's not so much his buddy in that one. But it's near the end. He's walking down there, and you see all the different robotic suits. You can see the Dr. Octopus suit. You see all this stuff. And, I mean, they were already planning to do a Sinister Six movie, which sounds like something that they're not letting go of.
Right.
It was just, it was too much. It was like, yeah, we see what you're doing, but what you're forgetting to do is make this movie compelling, because we're not really digging it that much.
Yeah.
And I worry about it. It's like, again, Sony's got your favorite toy, and they're strapping a freaking rocket to it, and they're gonna light it on fire, and it's gonna shoot the toy up in the air and blow it up. That's what they're doing. I hope not, though. I hope I'm wrong, and I hope this is a huge evolution of the MCU growing and getting really awesome villains and intertwining with other characters, along with the Netflix universe, which is going to be intertwining. And then you've got the whole Humans thing that is going to be happening later this year. And it's like, wow, this is getting huge. Not to mention the 2 shows that are going to be on Freeform, which look at least Cloak and Dagger looked absolutely horrible, but I haven't seen anything on New Warriors yet. I'm praying. But if Cloak and Dagger is any sign, I won't be watching either one of those.
Word.
So it's exciting. It's compelling. She totally just kind of threw Kevin Feige under the bus, and that's not a good way to start that relationship.
And you could just sort of again, like you mentioned, sort of see Kevin like really just
like froze, but you could still see "shut up" all over his face.
Oh man. We'll see.
And that's it right there. I mean, they've spent a decade building this up, and has it always been great? No. It's generally always been entertaining. It has not always been great, but they've tried to learn from their mistakes. They've built this huge MCU universe, and he's sitting down with somebody who they're trying to be really chummy with and play very nicely with, and he's sitting down in an interview, and she just threw him under the fucking bus. It was just like, wow, okay, so this is how this is gonna go. Not a good way to start.
No,
not a good way to move it up to the next level.
But at least, I'm gonna be interested to see the types of fireworks with this, if this actually does escalate or become problematic. But it didn't seem to be quite as contentious as what you pointed out about the Han Solo movies, or the Han Solo movie rather. This
is great.
I didn't look into this one at all. So could you break this one down? Like what was the big argument here?
Okay, so I think we even talked about this in one of our first episodes, that the directors who were announced for the Han Solo anthology movie. What is it? What are they called? Lord and Miller.
Yeah.
Who have made a lot of successful animated movies. What have they done? They've done. I think they did the Batman movie, and they did the Lego movie. I know that one. In fact, no, they didn't do the Batman movie. They did the Lego movie. What's the one animation? Something with a side of meatballs or something like that. Rain with a side of meatballs 1 and 2. And you remember that one?
Yeah. At first I thought you were about to say Aqua Teen Hunger Force, but no.
No. They've done a lot of animation. They've done a lot of successful movies. They're good. They're good directors. They're a good team. They're good directors. They were brought on for this, and I think we talked about it, at least as far as the aspect of, hey, these are successful directors. This could probably be really good. In the back of my mind, if I didn't say it then, I'm saying it now. I'm thinking, why are these guys being brought in for this? This seems weird. Now, this is part of what Disney's been trying to do, where they've been trying to bring in up-and-coming directors to work on these Star Wars movies. Rogue One was a perfect example of that. I cannot remember his name right now.
Right.
He's done a couple of really good movies. The big one being Godzilla. I think he worked on a couple others as well. Really great up-and-coming director. Did a great job with Rogue One. They had to do massive reshoots, massive rewrites, but still came out with a great movie.
Yep.
They gave these guys the ball. And, who am I to actually at that point say, well, these guys are horrible? I actually don't know. I hadn't seen a lot of their movies. Saw the Lego movie, which was fun and funny. Had a nice dramatic, understory to it as well. Sure, whatever. They have, I guess, apparently completely screwed up this movie. I guess the rewrites, the daily on-the-spot rewrites, the ad-libbing has been so much and just has turned this movie into such a comedy slapstick to the point where the most, there's a lot that isn't confirmed yet, other than the fact that they're gone. They were fired. But the story that most people are leaning towards saying is the most realistic is that Alden. Let's see if I can get his name right. I should just know it, but
Right.
Alden. How do you pronounce that? You see that on the notes?
Yeah, I'm looking at it. It's Alden. Alden. Ehrenreich?
Ehrenreich. We're horrible. We should know this. We're horrible.
I was gonna say Roik, but it's not Roik. R-E. No,
anyways,
Ehrenreich.
the lead actor, the guy playing Han Solo, went to the higher ups, Kathleen Kennedy, and the higher ups for Star Wars and for Disney, and said, "Hey, look, you gotta take a look at this, because what they're doing with this movie, they are ruining this." And if that is in fact the case, and he's the one that blew the whistle on this, thank you very much. I mean, that is somebody who obviously is putting a fair amount of care into the legacy of this character and just this franchise, and saying, look, if I don't say something here, this is going to bomb. People are already really iffy about this Han Solo movie to begin with, and he wants to come out with a quality product.
Glad he cares enough.
Right. It is being quoted that this movie has been Ace Ventura-like.
Oh Lord.
As far as the slapstick comedy that has come out of it at times.
It is, by the way, it is Aaron Reich. It's
Ehrenreich.
It's Reich. I think.
Alden Ehrenreich. And if he ever listens, I apologize. I should definitely know your name. In fact, if this is all true, because you have probably saved this movie. Which, hey, I'm always up for more Star Wars. I will always at least check out more Star Wars. I mean, there has been some bad Star Wars. The holiday special back in the 70s, another one. The Ewok movies, I loved them when I was a kid. I'm sure I couldn't stand them now. But they haven't always been great. So for someone, and then there's the prequels and the issues there. But for someone to take this, I mean, this character is, I would say, arguably the most beloved character out of Star Wars. I mean, you could say that something for Darth Vader. You could definitely say something for Luke Skywalker. I mean, they're definitely the big three there.
Oh, yeah.
But, it sounds like they were shitting all over this thing. And, I remember reading when they first announced these directors, and they were talking about the kind of freedom they were going to have, and how it's great that Kathleen Kennedy is allowing them to have the freedom that they're going to have to make the kind of movie they want. And, I'm thinking Lego movie, and I'm thinking Rain with a side of
Meatballs. Yeah.
meatballs, and I don't know. I'm thinking, I don't know. Maybe there's more movies that I don't know about that they've done.
Right.
This movie is going to be it has to be lighthearted a bit because that's part of the character. That's part of Han Solo. But there also has to be a bit of grittiness to it. There's got to be a strong bunch of rebellion to it.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know. I just wasn't feeling it to begin with. I'm glad they're gone, especially if half of this is true.
Yeah.
What do you have to say?
No,
you're a bit of an outsider looking at this. So
yeah,
what do you
I'm sort of just soaking and then parsing it up. With the one thing you want to see with these Star Wars movies, I think, especially now that we're starting to really expand canon, things that we know, but maybe side stories that weren't ever fully explored before. It's not just, I think, the accuracy learned to, but it's keeping these awesome, it's keeping engaged. Star Wars had a great re-entry into the scene. The semi-spinoff Rogue One, which is the prequel story, great. If you continue, I think, to build in that vein, that's great. I think the last thing these should be are a chance for grandstanding. The one thing that I love that's consistent across all the Star Wars films is their way they weave and connect into themselves. I never feel coming out of these that there's a large statement by a certain director saying, "Oh, look how awesome I'm being," or look at the choices that I made, or look at what I did here. All of these have served to really strengthen the foundation of what Star Wars is overall.
Right.
That's great because I've seen many series rip all kinds of different directions. You start going into spin-offs and semi-canon, and then prologue canon, and then prequel, and then here's a further jump, and it becomes a mess. They've managed to keep coherency without going into X-Men levels of fragmented timelines and everything. And for that, I'm very appreciative.
So what are you saying, Ian? Are you saying that Han Solo in his own Solo movie, bending over and talking out of his butthole, that's not that wouldn't be keeping up with that consistency? You don't see that character doing that?
I mean, that's what we've had in the books all the time, right? I mean, I thought
Chewbacca does at least 5 times in every movie. Yeah, I mean, you didn't notice that?
Basically, had Fire Marshal Bill in Star Wars.
I don't want to even think about what they were doing Chewbacca.
No, don't even. If it sounds like that was going even worse than the Jar Jar direction. That's what we're talking here.
I mean, here.
Yeah.
I mean, especially at the time frame of this, because I'm delving into that. This is a young Han Solo,
right?
Now in Episode 4, you can push for mid-30s on average,
right?
He's in his mid-30s, maybe a little bit older. We'll say mid-30s. I don't know for sure. Someone else does. Someone who's a much more hardcore fan knows. I'm going to say mid-30s. So he's young. So we're talking young Han Solo. I know he's supposed to be an adult, so we're talking about 15, 20 years younger. We're talking about at the beginning of the Empire's rule in the galaxy. Everything is getting turned to shit. Everything's getting controlled by the Empire. Oppression is beginning. You have to care about that timeline. That's part of all these movies, is that you care about what's going on in this established world at this time.
Right.
All right. No one's bending down and talking out of their ass crack during the oppression of the galaxy.
In that, does that not set the bar? I mean, as far as the type of tone consistency that I think just sort of led and built to expect. With Star Wars, I'm sorry, I can't imagine, even as you mentioned, I'm more of an outside fan of the series, just sort of general fan, but there's no universe where I can even imagine trying to convert this into some kind of slapstick. It doesn't work. It's just not one of those series you can flip and sort of do, here's a funny version over here.
Yeah, I could see a couple moments, between Han and Chewie, or Chewie and Lando, where they would be very lighthearted and almost goofy in some instances. They need to be. That lightheartedness is part of what those three characters combined, or two of them in any situation, brought. But I mean, so here's the thing. So it got to the point where Kathleen Kennedy and the higher ups watched some of the raw footage that they had been producing, and said, "Hey, look, we're going to take over on the reshoots. We're going to do the reshoots. We're going to bring somebody else in to do directing for the reboots." And Lord and Miller were like, "No, we're going to do it. We're not a fan of that." And so they said, "All right, see you later." So they were trying they're trying to be cool about it and be like, "Look, we're going to take over the reshoots. This is not going in the direction that we want this to go in." And they threw a fit about it of some sort, and so that's how they ended up getting fired.
Wow.
So
if I could have been a fly in the wall in that boardroom.
Which is kind of funny because a lot of times in reshoots, you don't use the same director.
Right.
They bring in other people to do it. When principal photography is done, they don't usually bring in. Sometimes it depends on the project, but oftentimes in these big projects, they won't bring in the main director anymore. They'll bring in other people to just do the reshoots because everything else before and after the 5 seconds or maybe the couple minute shot is already put together that you can't really mess that up. But I mean, the reshoots of this were so extensive, and just the direction was so bad. So I again, thank you for blowing the whistle on this shit. That being said, I would love to see some of this garbage that they came out with just to see how bad it was going to be.
Give us a you call it a blooper reel, whatever you want. Still
right, a blooper reel.
Well, it sounds like a giant blooper reel.
They changed. People talk about this. I don't know if you've heard of this or not. I don't know if you follow it this well, but there was so many changes in Rogue One that a lot of people want to see a lot of those cuts. I mean, that whole story got changed, I think, about halfway through. The whole third part goes very differently. You probably noticed that a lot of the trailers and such have scenes in it that you don't see in the movie.
Right. The one thing I'm hoping to is that with those kind of reveals and things you have in the trailers, and Star Wars has done well with this, I hope they keep with it, is not giving itself away too much. One thing that I am pretty excited about prequel films, and I was equally excited about for Rogue One, yeah, it's a familiar story, we know where that's going, but what were the factors that led to that? And I felt
right.
Rogue One didn't give itself away very well. You had some very vague general references that made it. You could fill that with whatever you wanted once you saw the trailers. Like with Han Solo, they got another open slate here. It's gonna be really cool. The cool part is Han Solo's hardened for a reason. He's seen a lot.
Right.
He's traded everywhere. He's done a lot. He's seen it all. And I guess getting a mirror into how he went through that process, sort of what were some of the things that changed him, some of the things that made him, molded him. I'd love to see it.
Well, so this brings up the question. Okay, so who's the director now?
Right.
They immediately came out and said that. I mean, this is a solid pick. Everybody knows who this guy is. Ron Howard, Opie himself, is going to be the director now. He's taken over. He's going to write the ship. What do you think of that?
Hey, by all means, I can't say that I don't have an extensive catalog of the rest of his credits, but the fact that it's in hands that care about keeping to that accuracy, keeping that consistency, and the quality you're shooting for without, I guess, pushing a agenda or pushing a personal agenda. Awesome.
Oh, that's an important part too. I like the Ron Howard pick only because he's been around for a really long time. He is as established as you get. That being said, I can't think of a single movie offhand that he's done except for Backdraft. Do you remember Backdraft from the 90s?
Yeah, man.
Yeah. So he's done a lot of drama. He's done a lot of action. He's done a lot. I think he's done some comedies. He's as solid and well versed of a director as you're going to find. It's sounds like is exactly what this movie needs, is somebody to come in here and just be able to understand all aspects of what's going on. Someone who's established director and grew up with in this industry with George Lucas.
Yeah.
And be able to take this over and probably write it as best as anyone could.
And with that sense of regularity, I think comes a really important acknowledgement. When you have something as big as Star Wars, I think it's very tempting to sort of...
And Apollo 13.
There you go. Apollo 13. There it is. Big one. There's this temptation, I think, to sort of attach your flair, your style, your brand to be recognized more in some way alongside a large flagship title like that. But I think there's a certain integrity that comes along with it. For so long, we were accustomed to the George Lucas umbrella since it's been handed off. Now, I love it. There is such a focus on that tradition that I don't feel any one director or any one actor supersedes that. And I think as long as it stays in that, you're going to have a really cool legacy of classic sci-fi films.
You know what I want to see, though? You know what I want to see next? I think we've talked about this. I want the next anthology movie to be the Obi-Wan Kenobi movie.
Yeah.
Let's bring in George Lucas. Ask him if he'll do it. I bet you he would.
He would.
He's been okay with what they've been doing. He's said that he's had some issues with some of the stuff they're doing, but I mean, let him do the Obi-Wan movie. I bet you he'd do it.
Oh, of course he would. There's no part of him I think that's just completely thrown Star Wars out the window. I mean, as you said, he's been at the sidelines. Really,
it's still making him millions.
It is, and of course he's still looking at this saying, well, I might have done that here. Well, while he doesn't have the creative influence and those creative choices about it anymore, it's something still near and dear to him.
All right. Well, so now, if you're not a Star Wars fan, you might be a Star Trek fan.
You just might be. And if you're like me, and if you were into the series that came out, I became a Star Trek fan with Next Generation. That's how I was introduced to it. I started watching it around second or third grade. Slowly after that, I picked up the rest of the series as I made it through the seasons of that. Deep Space Nine, Voyager, of course, the original, James T. Kirk. There has been announcement of a brand new Star Trek series that is Star Trek Discovery. And there's quite a bit of hubbub surrounding this, I think, for a lot of reasons. It's going to be a full of TV series, but some of the controversy, I think, comes from departing from some of the long-standing Star Trek rules that have always been in place about the series. Now, there's some cool innovations. I'm going to talk a little bit about aesthetics first before I get into the really important details like that. We've kept, of course, the Federation establishments of a voyaging ship searching for not just life, planets, and everything like that, but that expedition mission, that long-scale campaign. They've changed the look, the aesthetic. Their uniforms are navy, kind of deep black. They've changed the transporter room. Some fans are up in arms about that. It's going to be a little different, but besides all the stuff everyone's used to, with what you'd expect on Star Trek, this series is going to be based about 10 years before the events of the original series. It focuses on two specific ships. That's the Discovery, of course it's named after, and the Shenzhou.
Okay, so can I stop you right there?
Yeah, hit it.
Now, we haven't commented on this at this point. This is actually this was in our notes at one point, but it got bumped for a really full week. So we're a little late on this one, and that's fine. So when you say that this is going to take place 10 years before the original series,
yeah,
do we need to amend that? Now, as far as the year, does it take place 10 years before the original series as far as what year it's in, or does this take place 10 years before when the original series would have started, but we're in the new Star Trek universe? We're in the altered... Because from what I've seen, this looks like it's not even trying to even be part of that original Star Trek universe. This is trying to be part of the new Star Trek universe.
And by new Star Trek universe, you're speaking about the
events that happened in Star Trek that came out in 2009 that altered the timeline.
Oh, those. From what I've seen, I'm talking about original series, not as in the based off of the movies with current James T. Kirk that we know, based off.
So this This is not playing in the current Star Trek universe.
Not that I know of.
Okay, then I'm going to shut up for the moment, continue, and I will rant when you are done.
No, hey, important note. So that's where we have it based at the moment, but there's been some long-standing rules that have been lovingly referred to as Roddenberry's box. This is the stuff that you just don't touch. Whoever picks up Star Trek. One of those long-standing rules that's going to be broken are delving more into the individual character dramas and interactions. This is important. One thing Star Trek always managed to do was try to point at a larger societal issue or problem. X-Men did this to a degree, the animated series too, but it kept the lens cast wide. It was always that wide angle of you can mirror societal problems that we have today through this, sort of make parallels, connect with that, and maybe get something important and then move on. Since they're opening this to more interpersonal drama, my personal concern is that the series could lend itself more off that kind of exploratory forage, more into daytime soap opera drama. I don't predict that is going to be the thing that happens. They very well could veer away from that and still keep it very focused in the spirit of what Star Trek usually is. But I don't know. I don't know about that. I know you're kind of conservative rant here, Chris, but I did want to ask you. I mean, you've watched some of the original series, right? Like, which ones you watch most? Next Generation, Space Nine.
Oh, okay. So I've seen all of the Next Generation. I've seen all of Voyager. I've seen most of Deep Space Nine. Wasn't a big fan of Deep Space Nine. Didn't really.
A lot of people weren't
really dig it. Well, it's different. And that being said, a lot of hardcore fans love Deep Space Nine more than any of the other parts. Fine, it's a different flavor. Voyager was my favorite, but I grew up with the Next Generation. It was great.
Right.
Back in a world when I lived out in the country, and there was like half a dozen TV channels. The Next Generation was syndicated. In fact, Star Trek was known for being syndicated up until Voyager got taken over by I don't remember the station now. But it got taken over by a broadcast station. They had it on exclusively, but even then was still syndicated as far as previous seasons. I loved it. It was great.
Cool.
Was it heavy on action? No, but it wasn't meant to be. It was meant to be what it was. And it was beautiful.
Let me snip that right there a minute. You said it's what it was meant to be. What it was. The part that you enjoyed about it most, what was that? The beautiful part of it, that even though it was low in action, but the broader message of it, or what was it that pulled you in?
It wasn't that it was low in action, but it wasn't lacking substance for being a sci-fi TV show.
Right.
It had a substance. Things were meant to be thought out. Things were meant to be a mystery to be solved. Things were meant to be a puzzle to be solved. Things were meant to. It was about politics, and it was about dealing with conflict in other ways. There was still plenty of action at its time. It was great like that.
Yeah.
It was a thinking man's show. Let's put it that way. Especially when you look at things in comparison to now. That was fine, and that was great.
And I think that frames a challenge. The reason I ask that is, in general, that's a very similar parallel to what a lot of Star Trek fans enjoyed about the series for so long.
I mean, all the shows were like that. Even Enterprise, which was not a great show. Voyager, which to this date is the furthest along that any of them have gone. You had special effects were a lot cheaper. Things were definitely a bit more colorful and flashier, but even still was about dealing with the conflict in the way that Starfleet dealt with things, dealing with things as peaceful way as possible, action if you needed. That's not to say that they wouldn't throw themselves to the Borg just to go in and take over their system and kill the Queen. And there was always plenty of action with that too, but it stayed in the vine of what Roddenberry and what the shows are trying to do, which is come up with other ways to deal with conflicts.
Exactly. And the current runners, I think it's Aaron Herberts and Gretchen J. Berg, who are working on these laid out by producer Brian Fuller. It's sort of a departure from Gene Roddenberry's wishes. He passed away in '91. It was, I think, Rick Berman that was carrying on Star Trek after, and he respected his wish of, hey, avoid having Starfleet crew members in huge significant conflicts, unless you have someone, let's say, that's possessed by like an alien force. I'm instantly thinking back to Picard and the Borg and stuff like that.
Well, on that note, let me say that part of the show, and a great part of the show, was to deal with conflicts in nonviolent ways. But part of the statement as well was saying sometimes you have to fight.
Right. True. But I think that's in a larger, I could say moral sense.
It's a part of a larger conversation.
It is, and you consider, I guess, where bringing more room for that conflict in, with the interpersonal dramas and things like that. That's the part of this that kind of makes me a little uneasy. And of course, this wasn't stuck to adhere to perfectly across like every episode, across like everything, but still, it was pretty generally followed. But the fact that these are the types of stories in Star Trek that were really discouraged for decades, and that restriction's been lifted under the pretext of doing stories that are complicated with strong characters that have strong passions, views. I think a quote right from Harvard's was, people have to make mistakes. Mistakes are still going to be made in the future, and we're still going to argue in the future that the rules of Starfleet remain the same. We're still human. Has potential. While I am concerned, I don't write that off. I think that could very well spawn some really good growth. I know some of the best times for growth in Next Generation were some of the smaller conflicts Picard had with Beverly Crusher, or that Riker had with Deanna Troi.
You were really delving into this.
I really enjoyed Star Trek, especially Next Generation. That was really my show coming up. But it remains to be seen. This is one to give a chance. This is going to air on CBS.
CBS Access.
September 24th.
Is it September now?
September 24th.
Is it September?
Yeah.
This has been pushed back so much. Are you fucking serious?
It's great, right? So, I don't see a way that I miss at least the first couple tuning in to just kind of get a feel what this is going to be about. But
I believe the first episode is going to premiere on CBS on prime time, but after that, it will be on Access, which you have to pay to get. Are you going to pay to watch it?
Well, that'll depend on how much I like it at first. So, okay, let me get that straight. You were saying Access. It's Access second, not Access first, right?
The first episode will premiere on CBS, and after that, it will be on Access.
There you go.
Only. So every other episode and everything else will only be through their new online pay. I want to be Netflix.
There you go. Let me just say this is going to have to be darn good to make me do that for the series.
Which I'm sure you already know it's not.
Yeah. I'm getting that vibe. Oh, man.
It's funny because you clarified something for me. When I first saw the trailer for this and I was watching this, I'm like, okay, they're expanding on the world that they're building now. Mm-hmm. That's what I thought. You're telling me that's not the case,
right?
I'm done. I'm already done. I'm already done. Why? Why are you not doing that? Because that is a perfect placement 10 years before the Enterprise.
Right.
Okay, that's great because that means that they're playing in a sandbox. They're kind of playing in their own sandbox, but they're also playing in a sandbox where they can easily move next door and play in the other sandbox that they're currently doing in the movies. Why? Why are you cutting yourself off from what they're currently doing? Why is that smart?
Well,
give me one good reason why that's smart.
Because they want to keep the movie self-contained. I mean, despite their popularity, as weird as...
Well, which is mediocre at best, which is actually why I think that it would be smart to play in the current sandbox that needs a little help.
Right.
I mean, let's be honest, the whole reason the movies, any of them, were ever any good was because of the TV shows.
That's being honest. I can agree.
So why? I thought they were actually trying to continue on what worked, and they were going to stop trying to do what didn't.
But by that logic, if you're continuing what worked, E.g., the popularity of the TV shows, hey, that's the very thing you're basing it off of. In fact, before the first that many people remember.
Yeah, because Enterprise went off real good, didn't it?
Yeah. Oh man. Oh, hey.
But this is close enough. I get it though. Okay, so let me get past that for a minute and try to be objective about it, because that's already cut me off.
Right.
Because I mean, if I want to get into Star Trek, I want to get into Star Trek. There is no point in me trying to delve back into Star Trek and into a world that they're not going to expand on.
Right.
Because they're not. Maybe someday, and I'm sure a lot of Trekkie fans, casual and hardcore, wish that they would go back to the world that they left with Voyager. There's a lot of cool shit that happened after that too.
There was, and I think that's the great potential of the series. You still have that room to expand, but we're stuck in this sort of odd loop again of what we're the classics or the captains and characters we're most familiar with. Star Trek is one of those sci-fi series that is most primed to go spin off in a crazy direction, and it's okay. Because it's not based off of James T. Kirk. It's not based off of Jean-Luc Picard. It's not based off of Benjamin Sisko. They are parts of this larger, many year-long spanning campaigns, and different various ships. So, I guess I don't, as a fan, I guess I don't always understand that hesitation. I say with Star Trek, why not go for it? You are primed to do it. You don't have Han Solos and like Luke Skywalker's holding you down that you gotta hold to and keep some like storyline. You're fine.
Well, and even then, let's even talk about the hypothetical that they do continue on to the main universe, and they do continue, let's say, 15 years after Voyager. You've still got all these actors around who could, if they stuck with that timeline 15 years later, they could make visiting roles in these TV shows, which would be the coolest fucking thing ever to see Picard again.
Yes, it would.
Oh my god, or Riker, or any of them.
Yeah.
Just bring in Worf. He was in all the damn shows anyway. You can put makeup on him, and he'll look exactly the same. I mean, Brett Spiner probably couldn't pull off Data anymore. He's probably too old.
Probably
but
not.
I mean, CGI on that kind of stuff, that kind of facial correction stuff, is still too expensive. They probably wouldn't want to do it for anything more than a moment. But okay, they're not going down that road. They're going down a different road. They're about 220 years in the past or something. I look, and if there's hardcore Trekkie fans, don't kill me for this, please. But this is just a fact that the least popular time frame section of Star Trek, besides the Enterprise era, is the original TV show era.
Yeah.
It's just a fact.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of it myself. I enjoyed the movies. I can sit down and watch an old 70s Star Trek or 60s, 70s Star Trek show. I can watch it. That's fine. But it's not a real popular era. And so it made sense to me that they were trying to do this show in this new world that they're trying to establish a new fan base with. I guess I don't understand it. This is now that being said, take it for what it is. Especially that being the case, this does not look, feel, sound like Star Trek
off the
at
bat.
all.
No. Off the bat, no. The one thing that I did want to posit about it that I thought might make you smile was Leeds from Walking Dead. It's going to be in this.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
It's Sequela Martin.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, she's great. She's a great actress. I knew she was leaving The Walking Dead to do this.
Yeah.
That's all right.
They got ground to make up. I mean, whether they can do it still remains to be seen. I mean, even with the current Star Trek movies, we have throwbacks to like Leonard Nimoy, the rest. So there's always going to be that potential for those loose connections there. But hey, September, on the 24th, we'll see. I got to take a second for an info minute.
Ian, what do you got for us today for the Info Minute?
Running right into it, Michael Phelps is going to race a great white shark.
What?
I'm not kidding. This is not a crazy promotional or some kind of weird piece of info from an obscure portion of the web. There's a program set to air on Discovery Channel. This is called Great Gold versus Great White. This is going to air on July 23rd. quote that an event so monumental that no one has ever attempted it before, according to a press release. Either Michael Phelps got really bored, or needs some PR in a very odd way, or someone just wanted to create a Usain Bolt style situation out of swimming. I have no idea. I don't even know where this came from or how this was even based, but this is a thing.
You say this isn't a promotional grab. I say this is all one big money promotional grab. But let me go ahead, elaborate.
No. I think it is. What I'm saying is maybe he's bored. Whatever else, I'm throwing some conjecture out there. But come on, that's obvious. Before his return, to take his additional medals.
His additional 10,000 gold.
Yeah, yeah. There was talk beforehand. He'd already started doing PR. He got reconnected with a lot of his other contracts, and we started seeing him in a bunch of sports commercials during the Olympics and everything else. So this keeps that running way. But he's
gonna race a shark.
This is one of the last things I expected. I mean, but let's just break it down. I mean, look, Phelps is fast, but I mean the fastest he's ever been clocked was by ESPN at 6 miles an hour. A shark can be about like 30 miles an hour, 30 to 35 at least. What's so goofy about this is being promoted and hyped and everything else, and there really isn't much of an explanation of the exact structure, how this is going to function, everything else, but just watch Shark Week on Discovery, July 23rd, to see Michael Phelps race a shark.
No. No. You're going to have to tell me. I'm not watching this. This is, I mean, I don't know much about fish or sharks or anything, but I know a man isn't faster than a shark. Unless you drug that shark.
Then maybe you'd have a different story. But, yeah.
Are you going to put weights on the shark?
I mean, maybe riding his tail or something. I don't know.
Or are they going to put like some kind of special scuba suit on Michael Phelps?
That's the thing.
And make him faster. Okay, maybe I will watch this.
Yeah.
They're going to put some kind of super suit on him, and does he have to fight the shark?
No.
I don't want to see that. That would be horrible. Because the shark will eat him.
Yes. Oh my gosh. But of all the weird pieces I didn't expect to come across.
When is this again?
This is July 23rd, Discovery.
Uh-huh. I'm not going to watch this. Just like Star Trek.
Okay.
You're going to have to tell me about all of this.
All right, deal. Heck, it's so goofy, I don't even know if I'll tune in for that. I'll find the result. But
this feels like that magician who put himself in a clear box. And wasn't he going to stay up there for a month? And after a couple days...
Yeah.
He's like, that's it.
He came down.
I forgot I got no place to pee here.
Oh man.
Somebody wants a new house. That's what this is.
Pretty much, but hey,
it's not the shark.
No, clearly not. So, whether you guys are going to tune in to bomb out in Star Trek, or if you just want to watch Michael Phelps race a shark, or not, or hey, anything else, hey, please. We love your comments. Toss us a line at ksawmedia@gmail.com. Of course, anytime. Give us a like, fave, a comment, or subscribe. Catch us again next time. We'll be tuning in same time, same place. But until then, thank you, and we'll be seeing you soon.
See you later.